Hello my peoples, welcome back to my channel and back to a brand new video. Boy, a lot has happened. So today is Wednesday and it is a full 7 days from when Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated. Last Wednesday was his last day on earth. And saying that still feels foreign to me. And I guess my heart is just like all torn up right now because so much has happened. So much information has come out since his murder, his assassination, and it's just been a whirlwind of information, of misinformation, of accusations, of conspiracy theories, just all sorts of stuff. So this video, I'm going to try to dive into some of the most prominent conspiracy theories that are going out right now about Charlie Kirk's murder and just kind of dissecting the information that's coming out as of now. Now I'm posting this video and who knows when it goes up, we may have more information that completely throws this entire video upside down. Who knows? So just be prepared for that because a lot is happening, a lot is coming out, and it's all coming out in real time as well. So yesterday was Tuesday. Let's see what date that was because I'm really bad with dates. Hold on, I'll tell you. Yesterday was the 16th. Today is the 17th. And so yesterday, the transcript of Tyler Robinson and his boyfriend / trans furry boyfriend, Lance, got leaked. Well, not leaked out, but it got released by the FBI. And a lot of people are questioning and raising an eyebrow about this text exchange. Is it real? Is it authentic? What's really going on here? So a lot of people are questioning the authenticity of this text exchange because it seems just scripted. It seems like something you would write if you're trying to not implicate somebody else. And in this case, that would be his boyfriend, Lance. Now, according to reports, Tyler Robinson wrote a sticky note. He read it and it pretty much told him that he had did something crazy regarding, the shooting, that it was him. And from that letter came this text exchange that I'm going to show you. I'll put up on the screen somewhere, which I'm sure you guys have probably seen by now anyway. But in the text exchange, Tyler is explaining what happened and Lance is asking him, is it real? Did you really do this? How long did you plan this? I don't understand. And Tyler is pretty much going through an entire timeline of everything that he did from start to finish. This is why I did it. This is how I did it. This is what's happening right now. I put the gun here. I wrapped it up in this and a towel. I left, I came back. And in the text exchange, Lance isn't really saying much. He's kind of just like giving one word type of responses, which I would think is crazy because if it was me, if my lover was writing me and telling me that they had just committed a crime that I saw on national television that's making worldwide news, I'm probably going to say more than just, are you serious? I'm probably going to call you on the phone and say, what the hell are you talking about? Like, forget about texting, we got to talk. Like, I don't know. It definitely raises a red flag as far as the structure of the actual text exchange. And listen to the guys over on the PBD podcast talking about this very topic that I just saw a couple of minutes ago. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just saying this. So let's watch this together. And you guys let me know what you think.
Whatever the hell he is, yeah. And not even implicate that person.
What are the chances? What are the chances? I'm not being naive. What are the chances? It was literally just this kid, Tyler Robinson, that's been radicalized, been upset. He's texting his love. He's gay, he's trans, whatever it is. And he generally just did it himself. He was a lone wolf.
Why didn't the lover play along? Honey, I'm saying, what are the chances that it was just him? It's for me, it's approaching zero. I mean, nothing's ever zero.
You know what I did? As soon as I saw this yesterday,
listen to this. Listen to this part.
I went and put in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, reading this, it feels more like something written than an actual text thread.
Stop it.
I swear, I'm reading it from ChatGPT right now. The pacing, the length, the sentences, the way he explains every single detail as if he's narrating a movie. Yes. It doesn't match how people text when they're panicking or hiding after a crime. Real text, hold on, let me
interesting.
Real texts are usually short, sloppy, with abbreviations, not long monologues that sound like a script. So my gut, ChatGPT's gut, it doesn't read like an authentic back and forth. It reads more like a crafted effect. So that's that. But are you ready for this? It makes, and I trust me, they know me. I never believe anybody, but it makes far more sense to think that these texts weren't fabricated by the FBI or somebody, but that the shooter and his boyfriend
That's what I think.
had a script, they staged it, and then they exchanged it. You know why? You nailed it, Eric. To give the freaking lover boyfriend cover.
And focus on Tyler.
Just take the rap.
Patrick,
Take the rap.
Patrick.
Unbelievable.
They added premeditation.
That's what I'm thinking.
The lover says, "How long have you been planning this?" Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Is that a normal conversation between a guy who just blew away Charlie Kirk and his love? How long have you been?
But they call the person.
They got motive. They got the actual pulling the trigger, the aim, the reason. And now they got premeditation too.
Rob, you put it up there, and what does it say to you?
I did. I asked ChatGPT, analyze the script from these text messages. Do they sound authentic? And then I uploaded the text themselves. It gives a pretty long-winded answer, but at the end, overall assessment, these messages do not strongly resemble authentic raw text exchanges.
Not real.
They read more like a constructed script, possibly fabricated or heavily edited, than genuine, spontaneous communication.
Wow.
So
is this kid in custody, the trans boyfriend?
Nope.
No.
What do
They
you mean
talked
he's
to the
not in
family. They
custody?
spoke to him. They spoke to the
How's
family.
he not in custody right now?
They
questioned him.
He can't leave. You know, it's one of those.
You just can't leave.
He won't.
Crazy, right? You know what else is crazy too? When in that text exchange, Tyler literally kind of makes a mistake, right? Because he's talking to Lance and he says, "Remember how I engraved the bullets?" Now that part is important that a lot of people are missing, right? So if Lance had no idea what Tyler was going to do or what Tyler was planning on doing, or that this was even in the realm of possibility, why would your lover be engraving bullets? What's the purpose of that? That makes zero sense. Now, according to Tyler, he stole his grandpa's gun, the rifle, and that's how his dad figured out that something was wrong here, because they actually saw the rifle on TV and it became a big deal, and he was trying to call Tyler to figure out what's going on. But prior to that, Tyler says in the text exchange, and I'll put it up here, in the text exchange, "Remember when I engraved the bullets?" And he was talking about how he engraved the bullets and was using memes and, and we're saying a whole bunch of different things. But the part that stood out to me was the fact that he was confirming that Lance knew prior that he was engraving bullets. Now, why would you be engraving bullets? Especially engravings that seem very suspicious and very, motive-based, right? It's talking about fascism and things of that nature. And you didn't question that? Like, that alone, if I were in Lance's position and I found out what he had done and he's texting me, the first thing I'm going to say is, "Oh my God, you actually did it." That would make more sense, since you already knew that he was engraving bullets, than, "Oh my God, I'm so confused." Like, how could you be confused if he was engraving bullets? Is that something you normally do together? Like, that part doesn't make sense. The math isn't mathing, folks. It's not mathing. And that's what's not making sense to me. Now, some people think that the FBI created this entire text exchange because the phrasing of it doesn't make any sense. And it sounds like something that a boomer would write. I disagree, because I think the FBI wouldn't be dumb enough to do that. Here's why. If they were going to fake text between a 22-year-old and his boyfriend, I'm pretty sure they probably would double check with somebody else who knows how 22-year-olds normally speak, right? They're not going to speak in their language or in their terms. They're going to try to sound as Gen Z as possible. And that text exchange didn't sound very Gen Z to anyone, pretty much, right? I mean, he's using terms like "my old man," things of that nature. But this kid grew up in a very conservative, isolated Mormon household. So he wasn't exactly a normal kid living a secular life. So the way that he speaks may be indicative of his environment, how he grew up. So I'm not going to say completely, "Oh, he would never talk like that," because we don't know. We just don't know. Like, an isolated person who lives in a very isolated community is probably not going to have the same talking habits of someone who lives in the West Coast, in California or in New York or in a coastal city or in an urban city for that matter. So depending on where you live is going to determine how you speak normally. So I'm not really focusing too much on that. I think that this text exchange was more so to try and make a cover for his boyfriend. And he even says, like, "All I care about is you, my love. All I care about is making sure you're okay, my love. Don't talk to the police. Get a lawyer." All this stuff. So it just seems like he was trying to protect. And that's what that's about. That's what I think personally. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. I don't know. Again, this is all still new stuff coming out. What blows my mind, though, is how the media is trying to paint this now as some type of, love story. I mean, I posted a short that I'll post here of an ABC reporter literally reporting on this text exchange and making it seem as though this is some soap opera love story. And wow, it was so touching the way that he was talking to his love. He was talking about how he murdered somebody and going into detail about how he murdered somebody. And you're sitting here trying to romanticize this text exchange because he used the word "my love." Like, are you serious? This is journalism today, folks. This is where we are. This is mainstream media news, where we try to sympathize with the killer. while demonizing the person who was victimized by the killer. So aside from the theory that I'm talking about as far as Tyler and his boyfriend being in on this and, him writing that text exchange to try and cover for his boyfriend and him being the one that did it, there are other theories that are now, making the realms. And of course, we got to talk about Candace Owens, because Candace Owens is creating a lot of heat and a lot of wave right now as far as her theory about who did this. She does not believe that Tyler Robinson is the actual shooter or the killer, or that he had anything to do with this. In her opinion and in her perspective, it's the Jews. Israel. Israel is responsible. Israel did it. The Jews did it. It's all them. And I'm going to just kind of paraphrase what her argument is. Her point is that Charlie Kirk was recently starting to question the state of Israel and what they were doing as far as their foreign policy and how it was affecting America. And because Charlie Kirk's main audience were younger people by far, even on the right, are starting to lose support for Israel. And so Charlie Kirk was starting to get worried, because if his main audience is losing hope and faith in how Israel is acting, then he needs to start asking more questions so he won't lose his audience. And Israel wasn't happy about this. And according to Candace Owens, the motive would have been they took him out before he could start talking negatively about Israel, or he was asking questions about Israel that was making the state of Israel upset. And so they took him out for that reason. That's her theory. That's her theory. She also talks about a summit that Charlie Kirk went to back in, I believe, in April, called Save the West. Is that what it's called? Let me just double check. Yes, Save the West, a leader retreat. And it was really just a coming together in the Hamptons of different conservative commentators, podcasters, news people, to talk about the current times, what's happening, and the politics of it all. And in that meeting, Charlie Kirk was pretty much reprimanded. It was like an intervention, according to Candace Owens, of all of these like pro-Israel people who were trying to let him know, like, you need to stay in the right lane, don't veer off from the pro-Israel talking points, or it's going to be a problem. And he pretty much was like threatened, pretty much.
And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset, and threats were made. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called, and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say. And I know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment. A ton of money. Bibi would fund it, spend tons of money. And Turning Point, I guess, if it needed to go to a higher level, would have gone to an even higher level than it already was at. And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding.
And one of the people that she's claiming threatened him is a man by the name of Bill Ackman, who she claims, was threatening Charlie Kirk. So Bill Ackman actually responded to a lot of her claims that she's making, because her claim is it was Israel. They did it. They killed him. And so Bill Ackman, I'm going to put up his tweet up here. It's a long tweet, so I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to just read like partially some of it, and you guys can read the rest. You can go to his X account, because he has it still up as well. So he says, a few facts, corrections, and receipts to dispel some misinformation going around social media. The Turning Point USA Hamptons event was not held at my house, but rather at a hotel and Bridgehampton. As I previously explained, I did cover the cost of the event, i.e. travel, food, lodging, and food for the participants. This was not a secret event, and no one signed an NDA. Everyone, including the Turning Point representatives who attended, are totally free to share whatever they want about what took place and what was discussed. This was not a Chatham House Rules event. And he's saying that because Candace Owens is claiming that this was a secret event that happened, and that it was pretty much a ambush on Charlie Kirk. And it was like some secret Masons, thing, and nobody can talk about it. And he's pretty much saying that's not true. Anybody is free to talk about it. From Turning Point USA, anybody else who was there, please talk about it. Explain exactly what happened, what was said. There's no secrets here. He goes on to say, some have already publicly shared their experiences and perspectives on the convening in the spirit of transparency. I encourage any of the other attendees that have not already shared their thoughts on the event to do so. That said, I understand why some may not want to do so because of the fear of getting attacked by the mob who assume that something untoward took place. I'm sure there are some Israel supporters of Turning Point USA who became upset with Charlie because he told me so. He complained to me that some pro-Israel advocates view any criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic, and we both agree that this is wrong. And Charlie actually was on a podcast with Megyn Kelly, in which he explains that very point.
So glad you brought this up, and I would second that. Megyn, I think I have a bulletproof resume showing my defense of Israel, both on campus, on social media, to great, let's just say mockery and scorn at times because I believe it, right? I believe in the scriptural land rights given to Israel. I believe in fulfillment of prophecy. And again, I'm not a theologian, but I'm a Christian. My life was changed in Israel. The spiritual energy is so amazing there. I want them to win. I've said that repeatedly.
Same.
And however, Megyn, you're hitting on something very potent and important. The behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. Not like we're going to be pro-Hamas, not like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megyn, calling me an anti-Semite. I am learning biblical Hebrew and writing a book on the Shabbat. I honor the Shabbat, literally the Jewish Sabbath. I visit Israel and fight for it.
His perspective wasn't so much the politics of it all, it was more the spirituality of it all from a spiritual perspective. And so he looked at it from that lens. And so from that lens is why he supported Israel and would not speak out against Israel as vehemently as other people like a Candace Owens, for instance. And by the way, that's the reason why Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk kind of split ways, because she became so vehemently against the state of Israel and all things Jews, and he is completely opposite of that. That's not his perspective. That's not his wavelength. Even if he was asking questions, he definitely was not asking questions or was as defamatory as Candace Owens was in her criticisms of the state of Israel. A lot of people feel like that was why they have like completely separate ties with each other and we're no longer close. That's a lot to do with it. But according to Candace Owens, he was starting to ask questions that she had already asked, and they were starting to blacklist him and treat him poorly and threaten him the way that they threatened her, according to Candace Owens. He then goes on to share the actual text exchange between him and Charlie Kirk. So from Bill's perspective, he's saying, listen, if I threatened Charlie Kirk and at the event I was trying to back him into a corner and pretty much let him know that if he didn't, do what we wanted, it was going to be problems for him, why would Charlie Kirk text me this shortly after the actual event? He answers, I'm doing great. Really enjoyed our time together last week. Thank you again for doing that. It was great and great to get to know you better. We should do dinner sometime with the ladies. He responds, absolutely, that would be awesome. Let me know when you'll be in NYC and we will have you over. Thank you, I will. We are there a few times this fall. Great, just let me know. And so he's trying to show that if Charlie Kirk felt threatened or felt like this person, Bill Ackman, who he had just met, was coming after him and was a threat to him, why would he be cordially talking to him after the fact? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, why would you want to converse with somebody who you feel is dangerous, who you feel is trying to threaten you, who you feel is trying to silence you? Doesn't really make much sense. There is a point to be made with that. There just is. Of course, people online are responding to Candace Owens. They're upset with what she's saying. Before I go into that, another person who actually knows Charlie Kirk, named Seth Dillon, don't know who he is, but in doing research, I found his information on X and the exchange. And Charlie Kirk had actually invited him to this very event called Save the West. And so he's talking from his perspective of what happened. And he says, on July 8th, I got a text from Charlie Kirk inviting me to an influencer retreat. The theme was Save the West. I told him I was available and would see him there. Very little information was provided, but it was a Turning Point event spearheaded by Charlie. So I assumed correctly that there would be some good people and a great program. The retreat took place in the Hamptons on August 4th and 5th. At least 30 people attended. I only knew a handful of them personally. An itinerary was provided when we arrived. There were meals and theme sessions covering topics like American identity, immigration, economics, and foreign policy. Charlie stood at the front of the room. He would speak a little, then open the floor for discussion. He drove the discussion with challenging questions, and there was a spirited debate. If there were private meetings that took place, I wasn't in them. If there were angry confrontations, threats, or coercion, I didn't witness or hear about any of it. Should evidence of such things come to light, it will be news to me. One concern Charlie raised, which I believe he also raised publicly, was about free speech. He felt the criticism of Israel was so discouraged, so penalized, that we aren't really free to voice it. And then he also shares the actual text exchange. And he's writing Charlie, thanking him and saying, glad I could offer my perspective. And then he writes, of course, I'm here for you. And then Charlie responded with a scripture verse. Candace Owens is accusing this person, Seth Dillon, of having information and not sharing information and knowing more, of what was going on in that room. And he's pretty much saying, look, I was there in the room. Nothing happened that was, odd or threatening. Didn't happen. I was invited by Charlie to his event, and nothing like that happened at the event. It wasn't an intervention. Of course, people are responding to Candace's accusations. You have Laura Loomer on X, and she says there is zero evidence that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. The people who are saying Israel killed him are just trying to monetize his death and get views. It was also no $150 million bribe from Israel either. That is a complete lie. Turning Point USA executives are horrified at what Candace and Tucker Carlson are doing. They told me. And you just have this back and forth right now going online of people who are just like, Candace Owens is trying to profit off of his death. She's trying to make a series off of his death because he hasn't even been buried yet. He's still in the casket waiting to be memorialized, and then they're going to bury him. And Candace Owens is already starting a witch hunt against Israel, blaming them for this. And people are just like, what are you doing? Now is not the time. Let people grieve. After Candace Owens went on her podcast and talked about things that she feels she's exposing, she went on X and she said, Erica knows everything. And Erica is Charlie's wife. And then somebody who posted this responded to another user about Candace Owens and said, have you asked yourself why a woman is using her social media platforms to speak for a man who had a wife who was just murdered in front of millions of followers, to then go and try to use his name to push a narrative that her friend never agreed with? Again, who told her to speak for Charlie's wife? If she's so close to his family, why the heck doesn't she use her platform to help his wife and his family? Unless speaking more about Israel was more important to her than her friend. And then somebody else also mentioned that, Charlie Kirk's memorial is, the flyer is out. And in the flyer, Candace Owens is nowhere to be found in the flyer. She's not a speaker, nor is she a guest. And people are feeling like, wait a minute, if you're Charlie's best friend, according to you, and you guys were so close up until the end, why hasn't Erica invited you to his memorial service? Why aren't you a speaker at the memorial service? What is going on right now? People are asking questions stating it doesn't really make sense, because you would think that she would be a person who would be at the top of the list as far as invited guests, and she's not. So it begs the question of how close were you and Charlie actually, and this information that you have, how relevant is it if you're not even, or if you weren't even close enough to be invited to his funeral? So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on online with Candace Owens and her new theories about who she thinks killed Charlie Kirk. She believes it's Israel. Now, I don't know if she believes that an assassin killed him and they're putting it on Tyler Robinson, or if Israel hired Tyler Robinson. I'm not really sure what her theory is as far as how this was implemented, but I do know that she believes that Israel is 100% behind it. Those are her beliefs, and she's doing a whole series on it right now on that. I will say that as far as her theory, the one flaw in her theory is that if she believes that Israel took out Charlie Kirk because of what he potentially was going to say about them that was going to be negative, wouldn't they have already taken out Candace Owens? Candace Owens' platform is just as big as Charlie Kirk's. When she does her lives on YouTube, over 250,000 people watch live. That's huge. Those are huge numbers. Her platform and her influence is just as big as Charlie Kirk's was when he was alive. So if Israel is taking out people who have influence against their state and against their interest, wouldn't Candace Owens have been the first person on their hit list to take out, to shut up? I mean, think about it. They took Charlie out, according to Candace Owens, because of what he was potentially going to say, because Charlie Kirk never actually publicly criticized Israel. Now, if he had questions and he was questioning things and he had pushbacks, it was happening behind the scenes. It wasn't happening up front and outwardly on his platform, like Candace has been doing for, God knows how long. So I would think that Israel would have taken her out because she's a much louder voice and a much louder critic of their state. She has major influence, and they haven't touched her. And you would think now that she's bringing this to light, they would touch her now. Just get rid of her, just shut her up, and they're not doing that. So I don't know. It makes me wonder if maybe she's off on this one, because what she's saying, if it applied to Charlie, it would also apply to her, and it's not applying to her. And she's claiming that she has receipts. She's going to, reveal more stuff, and it's just going to get dirtier and dirtier, quite honestly. And I don't know, I feel kind of torn about it, because I'm like, all right, it's good to ask questions. I'm never against asking questions, but it's can we let Charlie at least be buried first? Can we let his wife grieve? You know, like, people are not going to her page saying, what do you know? What do you know? And it's like, she's trying to grieve her husband's death. She's trying to plan his funeral. The last thing she wants to talk about is Candace Owens' conspiracy theories. But more information, I'm sure, will come out as this story continues to grow. We just don't know right now. We're still in a state of confusion and trying to figure out the facts and trying to place everything together and figure out what's going on. I'm reporting as I know, but I'm not going to sit here and say, 100% this is the truth. I don't know. I'm kind of with you guys as far as just on this ride, just commenting on what's happening. So we shall see what happens. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think so far of what's been happening in the news, what's happening as far as this case, where it's going. What are your thoughts about this text exchange between Tyler Robinson and his boyfriend, Lance? Do you think Candace Owens is correct about Israel being the ones that are behind this? Do you think that she is way off her rocker? Let me know in the comments down below. Please be respectful. Let's not become the left. Please. Of course, as I know more, I definitely will report. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. Until next time.